Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be another really easy recipe. We're going to be doing some herb and garlic noodles, and we are going to be using mushrooms. This recipe is so easy and it is so incredibly tasty. I'm using spinach noodles, but you use whatever you have on hand. If you don't have spinach noodles, use whatever noodles you have, but I happen to find mine at the dollar store. So again, this meal is actually really low cost, which is another plus. Hi guys, thanks again for being here. So let's just get into this quick and easy recipe. This is a herb and garlic noodle and mushroom recipe. It's also a super cheap and healthy meal to make. So here are the noodles that I'm going to be using for this recipe. You guys have seen them before. I found them at the dollar store and I've used them in previous recipes. My oil-free hummus, I'm just showing you guys for those of you that haven't seen it. And of course the tamari that I'm going to be using in the recipe as well. So I'm just boiling up my noodles and I'm just following the directions on the package. So whatever you are using, just follow the directions according to the package, because some pastas really cook up a lot quicker than others, and it depends on what you're using. If you're using quinoa versus brown rice pasta, or like these ones are spinach, and they really cook up really quick. So yeah, and again, I found them at the dollar store and they were very inexpensive. So saving money and having an abundance of food makes me very happy. And the ingredients are not bad at all. And again, I love finding simple things like this, but it really is very helpful to have on hand at home, and finding it at the dollar store is just a hidden gem. So once your noodles are all done, you're just going to drain out all the water and then you are going to plate them. I added it to a very large bowl. That way I have room to mix up all my ingredients. So I'm just tossing them in there, and then I can go ahead and start my mushroom mix. And I'm just going to use the same pot just because I don't want to dirty another pot. I'm just being real. I'm trying to, have the least amount of things to clean up, and so I'm going to use that same pot to do my mushrooms. So as far as veggies go, use whatever you have on hand, whatever needs to be used up in the crisper, or whatever you have that's frozen. I have fresh mushrooms, so I'm going to be using those. I did find them on sale, so I was really happy because I love cremini mushrooms. Those are my favorite. I find them the most flavorful out of all the mushrooms that I can find where I am. So when I find them on sale, I get very excited, and so I bought a bunch and they had to be used up, so that's why it kind of inspired this recipe, and I needed to use up the mushrooms, and of course I had these awesome noodles on hand. So I'm just adding a little bit of that tamari just so that it's giving a little bit more moisture and flavor to my mushrooms. And of course I'm water sauteing to save a lot of calories, because every tablespoon of olive oil is going to add another 120 calories to your overall dish, and I'm trying to save calories. As far as seasonings go, I'm adding some garlic powder, of course. I love my garlic powder, and I'm adding a little bit of onion powder, and that's pretty much it. The tamari already has a lot of flavor, and I'm just going to saute those down a little bit. And then once they're done, they are going to go into the big bowl, and I'm going to add those to the noodles. So another thing that I normally do, and I'm just being very real here, is once I take off my mushrooms off the heat, I always add in my oil-free hummus, but I forgot to. So lesson learned, it's very difficult to mix in after. If you can, mix in your hummus with the mushrooms. So now I'm just showing you guys my fresh herbs, and these came from my garden. I'm very fortunate that my herbs are growing really well, and I have fresh oregano and I have fresh parsley that I'm going to be using in this recipe. You can find at least parsley at pretty much any grocery store, so if you can't find it, then just use dry, and I'm sure that's going to taste just fine, so don't stress about it. But of course I'm going to chop up these and use it in the recipe. So now I'm just going to add the mushrooms on top of my noodles. And again, like I said, I normally add the oil-free hummus right to my mushroom mix, and it's very creamy and delicious, and you can thin it out a little bit with some warm water if you need to, if you find it too thick. But again, I'm being real here, I forgot to do it, so I had to go ahead and add the hummus to the noodles, and it's still fine, it still tasted amazing, and it was still, a really good dish, but it was just a lot harder to mix up. So if you can, do yourself the favor and add the hummus to the mushroom mix, and that way it's all mixed up and a lot easier overall to mix it through the noodles. So I go ahead and add a little bit more of tamari just to make it a bit easier to mix everything up and add a little extra flavor. I don't like adding too much though, just because everyone likes a different amount and I don't want to overdo it. I would rather put enough so that I can mix everything through, and then people can add some extra to their own servings, and that way they can decide how much tamari sauce that they want, or if they just don't want to add any and you've already added plenty, then we're good to go. So sometimes when I'm making this recipe, I actually add a little bit of chili flake. I really like when it adds a little bit more of that heat and spice to it, but I didn't add it when I made this video, and you know, sometimes I'll put it in and sometimes I won't. It really depends on who else is eating with me. But yeah, again, adding a little bit of the soy sauce, if you're using soy sauce, or the tamari is going to help you mix everything a little bit easier. It's going to add a lot of extra flavor, so you don't have to add a lot of other things. So as far as the herbs go, most people are going to want to chop them up very nice and fine. But of course, you know, this is me. I just rip them up and I toss them in and then give it a nice little mix. It doesn't bother me when my herbs have big chunks, but a lot of people don't like that. So you're going to want to just chop it a little bit more finely, and that way, you know, you don't get big bites of parsley or oregano. So this recipe was really inexpensive, so if you are trying to cut down on your food budget, a recipe like this would be really helpful. And again, you don't have to use the fresh herbs, you could just use dry, and dry herbs are super cheap, so you don't have to stress about that. You know, I found these noodles at the dollar store, but if they don't have spinach ones at yours, no big deal. They always have different types of pasta, and they are really kicking it up a notch with, you know, having some healthy variety. And I'm finding quinoa and healthy, you know, whole grain pastas there. So find whatever your dollar store has, and that's a great way of saving some money. So yeah, or you know, maybe you have a grocery store that sells pasta on sale every so often, and healthy pastas, I mean, and you know, just buy it in bulk and keep it in your pantry for days like this when you need it. So I think overall this whole meal cost me like $3 to make, and I mean, you can't really get cheaper than that. I didn't even use all of the package for the spinach noodles. I used half of it, and that was more than fine. So here I am adding in that hummus, and you're going to see me struggle to mix everything up because I forgot to put it into the mushrooms, but that's okay, because you know what? I did it and it tasted fantastic. It just, you know, required me to use a little bit more of my muscle and, you know, trying to get that mixed in, and I did it, and it's fine, whatever. But yeah, so this is it. This is the very easy recipe that pretty much anybody can whip up. Even if you are a new cook, you know, you can make this. And if you are a student and you are, you know, again, low on funds, this is a definite, you know, plus, because you can make this really hearty meal that's very healthy and for very little money. So I came home from the hospital and I was super tired, but I was still able to get this meal on the table, and I enjoyed it outside. And you know, it could have even been cooked even quicker if I used a separate pot to make my mushrooms and get that sauce made, but I decided to just be lazy and I didn't want to wash another pot, so I used the same one. But you know what, I wasn't starving to death, so I could wait, and I was still able to make this hearty meal that is made with pretty healthy ingredients, and I didn't have to stop anywhere to grab some fast food on the way home and say, oh well, I'm too tired after my long shift. You know, as long as you have staple things at home that you can whip up really quickly, you can make an even faster meal. And look how cheap this meal, I mean, I can't buy anything as cheap as what I spent making this huge meal. So again, I would spend a lot more money and it wouldn't be a healthy meal. So I'm really happy that I have these staple ingredients at home that I can make, you know, a lovely meal really quickly with. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this, you know, video and this recipe inspired you to think outside the box and use simple ingredients at home to create a lovely meal. And you know, again, it doesn't have to break the bank. It can, you know, just be dollar store items, simple things on sale at your grocery store, and you can create a really healthy and hearty meal. Let me know in the comments below what other types of videos you'd like to see, and let me know if you're going to try this recipe. I would love to know. So stay healthy, everyone. Take care, and thanks again for being here on the channel for another week of an easy recipes that can be made in no time at all and still keep your health on track. Bye, everyone.